Welcome to Verbal Peak Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. I'd like to welcome you all to the show. From Hebrews to Negroes. Look, this is what I want to say. And this is just dealing with the media now. It's not with no other audience but the listening media. When this whole thing broke with Kanye and Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving sent a link to a documentary titled Hebrews2Negros, none of the white media referenced that documentary to say that what was in the documentary was a lie or was untruth. They didn't even go into the documentary and talk about what was true in the documentary. They just simply said that it was anti-Semitic and didn't go into depth on why they felt it was anti-Semitic and what parts of it was anti-Semitic or what parts of it was untrue and that was mocking the Jewish community. As a journalist, that's your job. That's just like when that curse of Ham, that black people skin color was the way that it is, was due to a curse. The media didn't dispute that or say that was anti-black, even though they know, and the scholars know, that the curse of Ham is a myth. Because melanin comes from the universe. Melanin is the oldest substance in the universe. It's the matter in which the Creator clothed himself in flesh. Then he created people in his image and likeness with that same melanin. That was first. It wasn't due to a curse. It was due to science. Why didn't the media present that science? So, as a journalist, I watched from Hebrews to Negroes, right? And what I want to do, I want to play some of it for you guys. And what I want you to do is, I want you to research and we're on a truth, a fact-finding mission to see what is and what's not. Now, let me tell you why this is so important. Black people have been told that they were the color of their hue due to a curse. Been mocked, been called nigger, been just beat up on for centuries, right? And now there's some information or proof showing that the original and the first Hebrew, the Jews, was black. And you don't want to share that with society to ease some of the burden of a formerly enslaved people. That's ridiculous. I don't understand what's the purpose of journalism and media if you're not putting truth out for the public to view and hear. I don't understand what's actually going on. All right. So white people, black people, Latinos, whatever your ethnicity or race is, I want you to listen to some of this and then do your own research and find out if it fits. Go on a fact finding mission, and if you see error or if you see them lying in any such way, then present it, because this is very important as we move forward into the future.
Babylonian Assyrian language of Mesopotamia at the time. Then we need to look into the bloodline of Cush, its influence in Mesopotamia, and its connection to India. then we can conclude that the early Hebrew forefathers, meaning Peleg, Ru, Serug, Nahor, Terah, and Abraham, were a mixture of Shem and a little bit of Cush. This is one of many pieces of evidence that can be used to prove that the 12 tribes of Israel were not white-skinned people.
The 12 tribes of Israel was not white-skinned people. Now he's going to prove it.
It shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
Now, the Dutch East Indian slave ship Merman, between the 1600s to the 1700s AD, was regularly transporting anywhere from 150 to 400 slaves annually from South India, Burma, and Bengal. The Dutch seized Portuguese settlements on the Malabar coast in India in the mid-1600s, and because of this, a large number of slaves were sent to the Indian state of Kerala, to Batavia, which is in Java, Indonesia, Ceylon, which is Sri Lanka, or Elam, and the Cape in South Africa, and elsewhere to work on plantations. Many of these so-called East Indians were kidnapped by the Muslims and sold at the city called Cochin to the Dutch slaveholders. The Arab slave trade of the East African Bantu Israelites during the 8th century shipped slaves all across the Eastern Hemisphere, including Madagascar. By the 16th century AD, the Dutch, including other European countries, got involved with the capturing of slaves from East Africa, Madagascar, the Malabar coast, the Coromandel coast, Bengal, and Indonesia. And during the 18th century, a high number of slaves in indentured service were taken from India and East Africa to do slave work in the Americas, the Caribbean, and South Africa, which was called the Cape. Now, does this hint to the curses of Israel? Now, wait till you see some of the Hebrew influences in the language of these South Asian nations. The language of South India is Tamil and Malayalam, and the language of Sri Lanka is Tamil and Sinhalese.
We waiting until the next. It's just showing right now. Let me fast forward a little bit for you guys. Okay, here we go.
Now, is there proof that the people in India are the descendants of Abraham's Semitic ancestors that live in the land of Ur, Iraq? Well, thanks to scholars like Dr. K. Loganatha Mudarayan from Malaysia, the late Professor A. Kadasivam from Sri Lanka, and the Kish Temple in ancient Samaria, Iraq, we can now prove that the ancestors of the modern-day East Indian originally lived in Mesopotamia during biblical times. In a few, I will let the language of the ancient Sumerians in Iraq and the Dravidian people in South India reveal some striking truths in regards to the sons of Shem. Also, you will see how the mother tongue of the Mandingo Soninke tribe people in Senegal, Gambia, Mali, and Guinea shows evidence of influence from ancient Babylon, Assyria, the same place the Hebrew Israelites were exiled to in the Bible. It is also a known fact that the ancient writing script of the Mandingo Soninke Baptist people in the 11th century AD resembled the same Aramaic Hebrew script used in Iberia when the Black Moors and the Black Israelites ruled the land. But before we get started, let's get a first-hand account of where some of the Black Israelites lived in Africa and their place of origin by the Black Muslims in northern Nigeria. One of the largest culturally homogeneous group of Black Muslims is in Central West Africa with the Hausa people. There are many different histories of the origin of the Hausa Black Muslims, but the common consensus is that the Hausas originally started off through the North African Hamitic Berber lineage from Egypt, which is Mizraim in the Bible, and Libya, which is Put in the Bible. Over time, during the Assyrian invasion of Egypt in the 7th century BC and the invasion of Africa by the black Ishmaelite Arabs in the 7th century AD, the Hausa people experienced a Semitic gene flow from Mesopotamia, which is also known as Iraq, and Arabia. Today, the Hausas speak an Afro-Asiatic language which is related to Hebrew, Amharic, the North African Hamitic dialects, and Somalian Egyptian dialects. The Hausa people mostly live in North Nigeria, Chad, and Niger. The majority religion now is Islam for the Hausa people, but prior to the 1500s, many Hausas were pagan worshippers who often dealt in sun god worship, which they call Ra or Rana, similar to the Egyptian sun god Ra. Because of their history of mixing with other nations, including their Bantus, Negro slaves, genetically the Hausas have a mixture of Israelite, Canaanite, Cushite, Egyptian, and Semitic ancestry. According to their autosomal DNA, their genetic stock is mostly from ancient Egypt and ancient Kush or Nubia. Now here's where it gets very interesting. In 1849, the Biafran Igbo Israelites were conquered by the British. 3 years later, in 1852, the British conquered the Benin, Edo, Beni Israelites in South Nigeria. Between 1899 and 1903, the British, led by Sir Frederick Lugard in the Battle of Kano, were successful in defeating the Sokoto Caliphate and the Hausa people. After this, Sir Frederick Lugard held the title of the first Governor General of Nigeria, the last Governor of Southern Nigeria, the last Governor of Northern Nigeria, and the Governor also of Hong Kong in China. The British eventually placed the Hausa people in political power over Nigeria and the Biafran Igbo Israelites who strongly resisted British rule. This would become the catalyst for the Biafran War in the 1960s by the Hausa-dominated Nigerian government and Igbo Israelite Biafrans. Before the British even conquered Nigeria, there was a man named Muhammad Bello, an ancestor of the Hausa people in the Borno state, who was the second black Arab sultan of the North Nigeria Sokoto Caliphate in the early 1800s. Now Muhammad Bello, he quoted in his records, "The Taurud and Taurud people, it is said, were originally Jews. Others say Christians, that they came from the land between two rivers, the Nile and the Euphrates, and established themselves next to the Jews who inhabited the island of Cape Verde." Now this is also seen in our Bible in the book of Genesis chapter 15 verses 18.
On the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, "Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates."
Now Muhammad Bello also stated that the kingdom of Mali is an ancient and flourishing country and comprises two other provinces. One is Bambara, which contains rivers, woods, sands, and a gold mine, and is occupied by the Sudan, who are still infidels and possess great power. The other, on the west of it, is the Futa, which is inhabited by the Taurud and the Soninke, or foreigners. And what's interesting is that he also made another comment, stating that near to Bambara, there is the province of the Taurud and that of the Fut, which are extensive, inhabited by their own people and by those of Sarankale or Soninke, also called Ajam, meaning alien or foreigner. This region is known today as modern-day Senegal, Gambia, and Mauritania. Now, the Futa Torah was in the north, while the Futa Jalan was in the south, consisting of modern-day Guinea and Sierra Leone. Now, keep this in mind. The tribes that inhabited the Futa Turo and the Futa Jalan region in West Africa back then, their descendants can be seen today in the Tukulur tribe, the Wolof Serer tribe, the Iwan-Biwane Fulanis in Guinea, the Mandingo Soninke tribe, the Balanta tribe, and the Mende tribe. According to the black Muslims in Central Africa and Mali, many Bantu tribes in the Futa regions were still following the Mosaic law as per Hebrew customs and not Islam. This is why they are listed in their books as infidels and foreigners. The Bantu's Israelite slaves multiplied so much while they were in captivity to the Fulani people that they assimilated into the black Arab Tuareg Fulani tribes in West Africa. Now the Tuareg black Berber Muslims called them Bella, and the Masina Fulani people called them Remebi. Over Over time, the Fulani tribe and their Israelite Negro slaves assimilated into the North Senegal, South Mauritania region known as the Senegal River Valley or the Futa Turo. After many power struggle wars, many Israelite Mandingos migrated south to the Futa Julan region near Gambia and Guinea. Now, based on this knowledge, can we prove with Bible scriptures and what language that these Israelites Muhammad Bello wrote about were the descendants of the ancient Israelites scattered into Assyria, Babylon, and Africa where brown skin tones dominated? You be the judge.
The king of Assyria did carry away Israel into Assyria and put them in Halah and in Habor by the river of Gozan into the cities of the Medes. Thus saith the Lord of hosts.
So the point I'm trying to make is that any knowledge that was stated in Hebrews2Negros that can be disputed, then disputed just the portion that you've just heard. If you can dispute it and put it out in the public, because the ball now is in the court of those who called this documentary anti-Semitic. Now, let me tell you why I am promoting this documentary, right? Because when you have people who have a passion and they take the time, their monies, and their efforts to put something forth in the way of knowledge to the public, then credit them. Stop always finding something negative about black creativity to say that it shouldn't be shown, or you're always looking for something negative when speaking or dealing with something that was created by black creators. And one more thing before I go. I walked into an establishment, right? White women dyed their hair from pink to green, even some of the men, right? And I said to myself, wow. Now, I done seen black men, wrestlers, get their dreads cut out their head, banned that you cannot wear dreadlocks into an establishment, but yet you would have clown type hair representing your establishment, but nothing that is religious or tribal wear for black individuals who wear the dreads. I mean, racism and prejudice is just ridiculous, but what people fail to realize is no one is tolerating it anymore because you can't justify it. So it makes no sense at all. Volpic Radio, we're out.